And we are back. Today it is Monday, August 17th. We have a fantastic show here for you, the news headlines, the weather report, and today in history. This morning, we'll be speaking with Wareham Selectman Alan Slavin in regards to his involvement not only in town but across the region. In addition, he is going to talk about his recent no confidence vote towards Selectmen Judith Whiteside and Peter Teitelbaum. But first, let's take this moment to thank Not Your Average Antiques, an antique shop down Cranberry Highway in East Wareham, for donating the props that you see in the morning show set. So stay with us because the news headlines and the weather report are up next. Federal grand jury indicts a born man for possessing child pornography. Wicked Local Wareham reports that Brian Milewski, 33 years old, was indicted Thursday on charges of receipt and possession of child pornography. The case was brought as part of Project Safe Childhood. Milewski was arrested on July 1st and charged by criminal complaint. And in Weymouth Educators Association protests the district's recent layoffs and furloughs. The Patriot Ledger reports about 50 employees will be affected. Michael Murphy, the union's president, said school administrators should consider eliminating some administrator positions instead of eliminating staff. And two bodies, a man and a woman, were recovered from a submerged vehicle in the water off Boston's Black Falcon Pier on Friday. South Coast Today reports one of the victims has been identified as a 21-year-old Tatiana Morales of New Bedford. Family members of Morales said the two were missing since Tuesday. State police say the circumstances surrounding their death is an ongoing investigation. And Southern Airways Express expanded their regional services to include daily flights between New Bedford and Nantucket. Starting August 26, South Coast Today reports that the new route will complement the airline's expansion this summer, which added Hyannis. Southern Airways Express seasonal flying in New England is scheduled through October 12. The newer route addition of Hyannis and New Bedford are being considered for year-round service. And that concludes this morning news headlines. We'll be right back with this morning and this week's weather forecast.
Social distancing and staying home are the best ways to limit the spread of COVID-19. But if you must go out, make sure you cover your face. You can use anything that covers your nose and mouth, including dust masks, scarves, and bandanas. But leave the surgical masks and N95s for healthcare workers. Remember, masks slow the spread when you must go out. But staying home and social distancing are the best ways to protect yourself and others. For more information, visit mass.gov/COVID-19.
A mixture of sun and clouds throughout the week today. Much cooler day like yesterday. Today temperatures will rise to the low 70s. Temperatures will climb up slightly over the week, reaching the low 80s. Rain showers across the entire week, as you can see on that chart. So at least you're going to sleep much better tonight with your windows open, even your door open, if you live in a safe part of the neighborhood. Anyways, this concludes this morning and this week's weather forecast. You know what Bob White said to me? He did this. Keep walking, keep talking. Anyways, this concludes this morning and this week's weather forecast. We'll be right back with more.
We want to talk to you about medical emergencies. the kind that would result in a visit to the ED before the coronavirus hit.
The kind that would start with chest pain and sweating.
Or with difficulty speaking and drooping of the face.
Or an accident like a fall or the slip of a kitchen knife.
These are still the kind of emergencies that require a trip to your local emergency department.
Despite this pandemic,
We assure you hospitals are doing everything possible to keep emergency departments clean and safe.
And we are here to provide care to you and your family, but you must not delay.
Because when it comes to your health, time can be the difference
Between life and death.
If you experience a medical emergency, call 911 or go to your local emergency department.
We're going to proceed with three of my featured programs. We are going to watch a farmer in Rochester who farms hay. We're also going to hear from a little girl who is selling dog treats and taking all that money that she makes to help the homeless efforts here in Wareham. So here we go.
Well, my cut is a 1968 John Deere 4020. I've had it for 22 years, and this one it came from Pennsylvania, and this is 1962 3010 that came from Arkansas. You know, it used to always start like Labor Day, Memorial Day, but now it rains every Memorial Day, so you can't. Usually the first week in June I start cutting, depending on the weather. I started 2 weeks ago, cut all that and this, and then it rained every other day for a week, so couldn't do anything. Yeah, first time I baled I was 12 years old, 1954.
He worked for a farmer in Rochester, earning $2 an hour back then.
I just like to do it. So then, this was my parents' land at first, and I bought it from them. And then I worked for 40 years for a utility contractor. And I retired 14 years ago.
His hay farm spans for 12 acres. Way back in the 1800s, this land used to be an apple launch. His father bought the land in 1936, growing daffodils and shipping them to New York.
But that was back in the 30s and 40s, you know.
So how many steps are there into making a bell?
Cut it, then you tether it, turn it over, dry it, to keep drying it, and then rake it in the windrows, and then you bale it. It takes about 4 days. If the wind blows out of the north, you can do it in 3 days, because the north wind is dry, south wind is wet. So it's damp, so it doesn't dry out as fast. And if you don't dry it, you could start your barn fire, or the hay will start rotting on you. It won't be any good for anything. That's why I only cut a little at a time. So if I lose it, I don't lose a lot.
You've been very lucky. We had really great weather since we filmed on Monday.
Now it says tomorrow afternoon or tomorrow night. So that's why I was going to do 2, and then so I just keep going around. Hey, this is better yet.
This is better yet?
Yeah.
If you're
I'm
new,
going to cut the whole field now.
I know. If this was guaranteed, we would have done all of this.
Cut the whole thing. It would take me 2 hours.
Oh.
Lost 8 acres last year. Second cutting, I had it all cut and it rained. It wasn't supposed to rain for 5 days, and it rained the next day. So that was no good.
Ed says there isn't a lot of competition in Rochester for hay farming.
Not very now. There's no farms around. A lot of hay in New York and Canada come down. You know, they buy it there. Nobody wants to spend the money on the equipment. And the weather's terrible. Like now, you don't know what it's going to do.
Because of climate change, Ed can only count on making 2 cuts a season.
Used to get 3 cuts when the summers were really good, way back in the 70s. But now it's a finer and better feed. So it's worth more.
This hay farm spans for 12 acres. He does all the work himself.
That's me. That's me. Yeah. No good to get fat and ugly.
At 17 Nanumet Street in Onset sits an 11-year-old Emma Kendrigan with a bucket of homemade dog treats. For just $1 per treat, Emma raises money to help support a local endeavor to feed the homeless in Wareham. Her generosity came from a long-standing tradition with her grandmother.
We save up quarters throughout the whole school. It's not only quarters. We save change throughout the whole school year, and then we bring it to the bank at the end of the year, and we cash it all in and get the cash and get a toy, mostly a toy, because that's what I usually get. I got my scooter over there, actually.
Very cool. But this year you decided to do something different. This summer, Emma decided to donate her change to feed the homeless. She was inspired by Z Suarez of Seven Hills, who pick up food donations around the community to feed the homeless. So it was purely her idea?
It was her idea. It was her idea. And Z had told me that ham and bologna were the favorites, so we went to the store and it was a little late. Z comes at 11:30, and it was probably 11 o'clock. We were at the store, and we came home, and we had an assembly line making bologna and cheese sandwich with a banana and a snack, chips or something, and bagged them all up, and we got there on time, right?
Yes.
How did it feel to do something for somebody else?
It felt nice. It was just like really nice to do it because it makes people happy.
Emma's efforts haven't gone unnoticed.
Yep. Someone just donated in the rain. Wow.
Oh, they have been so generous. Emma's made over $500 collecting. And then Emma's cousin Maddie, he told her what?
If I raised $100 in the day that I was out there, that he would match it and give us another $100.
Wow.
I raised $200 that day. We still only got $100, but not only $100, but like we still got $100, but he raised $200 that day.
Very good.
It really pushed us to do more, so.
Yeah. And rain as my witness, Emma delivered this message.
What I want people to know is, like, if you were homeless, like, you would want people helping you, too. You wouldn't want people just saying, like, oh, we're not going to do this. Like, you would really want people helping you.
And then everyone's like, oh, my God, when is the outside going to open? They're like, May 15. I was like, yes, let's aim for June 15, you know.
That is my college friend, Madora Sesay, expressing just how thrilled she is with social distancing.
Right now, I'm not blaming myself for not being where I am in life because I'm like, well, it's a pandemic. There's nothing I can do about it at this point. If there wasn't no pandemic, I would be freaking out. I was like, oh my God, Madora, you need to get your life together. You need to get a job. Like all of this thought, like, you know, they're not there right now because nothing's going on.
Social distancing has allowed Madora to do the one thing that she has been struggling with, and that is forgoing stress.
It could be that I'm used to living in chaos and that this is not chaotic to me because my personal life has been so chaotic. Or it could just be that I needed this an exit from the world and just be in my own world. You know, I don't know what it is, but I think it's one of the two.
Madora has learned new revelations about herself during her self-quarantine, including that she has a green thumb.
So we're going to do a little tour of my plant. We're going to start off with the carrots. This is a tomato plant. This is my baby. It's an aloe vera plant. I've had it for the longest. This is watermelon, pepper, another pepper. I think one of them is sweet banana pepper, and then the other one is spicy pepper. I can't tell you what that is. I kind of forgot I have so many plants. This is the money tree. This is where I go to grab some money to pay my bills. Some lavender, some garlic. I got some basil here. These are some lilies that I got from the river, but they're dying. This is a sunflower. I think it's getting too much sun. Some scallion. I just used it recently. This is my sage to keep away bad vibes. And this is one of my favorite flowers, the moonflower. As you can see, it's wrapping up around the porch. This is my porch. And these are my babies.
She also takes leisure walks in nature trails and tries to meditate for 15 minutes daily.
I enjoy walking. That's something I would have never thought I would like to do. You know, I go for 2-3 hour walks and I just feel so much better.
After graduating from Bridgewater State University, she moved to New Orleans in 2018 for a fresh start. She currently works as a case manager for people living with HIV.
So now that I'm working from home, I just do case management job, making sure they have insurance, making sure they attend the appointments, and just making sure they're on medication. And if they have any problem with medication, get in touch with the provider and we can work it out.
She says her clients, though homeless, are resilient.
They're just like, well, what's the worst that can happen? As in referring to the problem that they already have and the problem that they already face.
Madora, you have family back in Liberia.
Yes, in Guinea.
Have you spoken with them lately? How concerned are they of COVID-19?
Honestly, they're more concerned about me than they are about themselves, because they hear the news that we have the most cases and they know that I'm, staying home, not going out, etc., etc.
Social distancing has also provided Madora with the opportunity to prepare for her master's program. What are you considering your master's in?
Public health.
Hey, baby. Hey, baby.
So until the country reopens, it is just Madora and her cat Mui loving social distance.
You want a pet?
Hello and welcome back. You are watching Good Morning Wareham, your source for local news, weather, and more information. And now for a moment in history. Let's take a look at where we were today in history. Okay, let's go to history, or what I would like to say, I like to call it, where was Bob White today in history? Today in 1968, the first Miss Black American pageant takes place. Sandra Williams was the first Miss Black America, sending a message that black is beautiful too. 16 years later, Vanessa Williams would win Miss America as the first black woman to do so in history. On this day in history in 1998, President Bill Clinton testifies before the Office of Independent Counsel as the subject of a grand jury investigation. Clinton was the first sitting president to testify before the committee. The testimony was a culmination of several scandals over a 4-year investigation period into Clinton and Hillary Clinton. Accusations included sexual harassment, potentially illegal real estate deals, and suspected cronyism. Today in 1962, East Germans kill a man trying to cross the Berlin Wall into West Berlin. The guards gunned down the young man and left him to bleed to death. It was the ugliest incident to take place at one of the ugliest symbols of the Cold War. And for today's birthday, shout out goes to Robert De Niro. This legendary American actor was born today in 1943 in New York City. He turns 76 years young today. And happy birthday to everybody else celebrating their big day today. That is all I have for Today in History segment. To learn more cool historical facts, please go online under history.com. Stay with us. The coffee segment is up next.
You've always protected me.
Whoa. And I still need you. Prescription pain pills, heroin, kids are getting addicted.
Can you still protect me?
Kids who talk with their parents about opioids are less likely to misuse them. Find out what you can say.
This morning, we are going to hear my interview with Selectman Alan Slavin, who is going to talk about his involvement not only in the town, but across the region, the various committees that he's part of, and what that means to us here in Wareham. In addition, I did ask the Selectman to comment on his recent no confidence vote towards Selectmen Judith Whiteside and Peter Teitelbaum. And here is what he had to say. So sit back and enjoy. Hello, and thank you for joining us. With me in the studio is Selectman Alan Slavin, here to talk about his work not only in Wareham, but in the region, and the impact of his involvement. Also, he will touch upon his recent no-confidence vote towards Selectmen Peter Teitelbaum and Judy Whiteside. Stay with us. More information coming your way. So thank you for being here this morning with me. And I'm very interested to talk about your career here in Wareham, not only as a selectman, but the various committees and organizations that you are a member of, and what that work means here in Wareham. So if you do not mind, may you please talk about your involvement outside Wareham?
Well, when I had been on a bunch of different boards and committees from about 2005 to 2011. The town really was not involved at the regional, county, or state level as far as the selectmen go. Way back, we had a couple people that were involved, but it's been years. So I thought I would also reach out to these different organizations that are available to us, because they provide grant opportunities, they provide information that's critical to running a town. They give you a chance to talk to other, selectmen, mayors, town council members, etc., about what they do and how they do. And basically you build a network where you can call anytime you want and ask questions and get answers. It makes life a lot easier. I know our town administrator, Mr. Sullivan, really wasn't involved much, and I asked him if he would step up to Plymouth County, and he's now in the finance committee for Plymouth County, and it makes a big difference for that as well. So for me, what I've done is it's a pretty large group of things I do. As far as the state level, I'm on the board of directors for the Mass Municipal Association. The Mass Municipal Association basically represents selectmen, mayors, town council members. It represents finance committee members, and town administrators and town managers. All 351 communities in the state of Massachusetts. And they basically is a political organization that works on bills, promotes bills and stuff, basically gives us information on how things are going to work, how things are changing, and works to make changes. And because of my position in the Mass Selectmen's Association, I basically am the District 4 representative right now. District 4 is Plymouth County, Cape and the Islands, so I represent all the selectmen in that area. And therefore, when I go to the board meetings, I'm representing all those people. I'm also on the Local Government Advisory Council, which is the Lieutenant Governor. Basically runs that. We run once every month on a Tuesday. And we sit down with the Lieutenant Governor and they discuss things that are going on, gives us updates on what's coming, what programs are coming. And then we have also an opportunity to express our issues as well on those programs or all those opportunities. And then we go into the county level, and I'm on the Plymouth County Advisory Board. I'm on the executive committee, actually. There's 4 of us. And we basically vote on the budgets and the expenditures for Plymouth County. And we get involved there. It doesn't do a lot. We only meet 2 or 3 times a year, so it's not a major thing as far as time frame. But what it does do, it gives us the opportunity to speak to the treasurer of Plymouth County and the county commissioners. And what I do normally is I kind of challenge Tom O'Brien, the county treasurer, about basically giving us more opportunities, more things that he can help us with from the county level. I'm not sure everybody knows, but the CARES Act that came in the state of Massachusetts got a certain dollar amount. I think it was, I'm going to say $2.7 billion, but I'm probably not sure the number. Any basic county or any individual city or town that has 500,000 people or more could apply to the federal government directly for that CARES money. Only two units in this whole state of Massachusetts did that, City of Boston and Plymouth County. So Plymouth County got all their money directly, and therefore we go with those communities that are in Plymouth County, they have quicker access to their expenses and filing reports. And I think it works out better and it's more efficient. So we get a little bit of input there as well. It helps. It also helps us filing in case we have any issues. It's taken care of easier. It doesn't have as much paperwork back and forth. I also asked Mr. Sullivan a while back to look at the Mayflower Group, which is basically insures for OPEB liabilities, one thing, and also for health insurance. I think the first year we switched over to that group, the town saved something like $600,000. And that's been a real savior for us on cost increases, et cetera. Plymouth County's done a great job in investing money and being able to keep the cost of the plans down to a real minimum. So we do that there. Then we get into regional, which would be SERPED, which is basically an economic planning and economic development. And I became we have what they call commissioners. And one selectman from every one of the 27 towns in SERPED, Southeast Mass, has a member, also a planning board member. So there's 54 members total. And I've been doing that for quite a while as well. And currently I'm the actual chairman of the SERPED Commission, which gives me a lot of access to a lot of different things as well. I'm on the Metropolitan Planning Organization and also the Joint Transportation Group. Those two things together actually do all the planning and basically approve what road projects happen in Southeast Mass in our region. So it gives us the opportunity to make sure we apply, and I can help the town as well getting projects approved for road work, which I've done several things that are coming and working on. And then I'm also on the Finance and Personnel Committee for SERPED as well, so I'm heavily involved there. And then from there, I'm trying to think what else I do in this wonderful world. I'm on the South Coast Task Force for the railway, but nothing's happening there on South Coast Rail. And then locally, as far as the town goes, I'm a member of the board of directors for the Wareham Historical Society. Mm-hmm. And I'm currently the treasurer now for the Wareham Community Associates, which is a group of business people that we meet. We do a clam bake every year. This year we're not doing it because of the virus and stuff, but we give out 3 to 5 scholarships every year. Mm-hmm. That's what we do there. So that's kind of what I do.
An impressive resume.
And the selectman thing is just a sideline.
And I'm curious to learn if, before you, has the town always had a liaison to represent them in the district and also in the region? Or did you assume that role yourself because of? I
don't know if anybody from the town physically went to the Plymouth County Advisory Board meetings, which is usually 2 or 3 times a year. At the level I'm at, nobody has ever done that. As far as SERPED region, I don't think there was any consistent, going to the meetings once a month, etc. So the answer is, if there was anything, it wasn't consistent, and it really didn't do much at all. Mm. I know from the time from 2005 to 2011, there was really nothing at all.
So talk to us about the impact of your involvement here in Wareham. How do we cash in some of those favors?
Well, it's really a matter of understanding what grants and what they call technical assistance programs are available. Through SERPED, you get 20 hours for the selectmen's side, 20 hours for the planning board of free work. It can be anything as simple as a master plan. It could be working downtown Wareham on like the Wareham Village. All these different things that are available to us. But I have the ability, because I'm involved in so many things, that when a particular grant program or just a regular program comes down the line, I can inform, or like Ken Buckland, who's the Director of Planning and Economic Development, or Dave Menard in Municipal Maintenance, or Mr. Sullivan, the Town Administrator, hey, this particular grant, this is here, you only have this many days to apply, and what it's for. And we've been picking up a lot of these in the last 2 or 3 years in particular. Mm-hmm. So that's where the big advantage is, that we have the ability, the money's going somewhere. So it'd be a lot better off if money goes to Wareham than it goes somewhere else.
All right. So lately, Alan, I've seen that you have been upset with the decisions made by the Board of Selectmen.
Okay.
Do you mind talking about?
No, it's been in the newspapers. The article, I think the last article that was updated by Wareham Week was really accurate. I always have a hard time with the newspapers because they really don't accurately portray what happens. You know, they pick up what they hear, but they really don't get the details, and that really creates a problem for me. I've complained for at least the last 2 or 3 years about it. You know, I've been very vocal about it. What happened, I'll try and go through this really easy, as best I can. You can edit out whatever you want, I don't really care. We had back in, a year ago, when the Charter Review Committee was formed, it was difficult to get it formed. When I was chair, I would, every week we mention to people who need to apply for the Charter Review Committee, because that committee was supposed to be put together starting the beginning of 2019. It just sat there, and we didn't get enough people to make a quorum, so it just never got there. Several of the selectmen really were not crazy about having a Charter Review Committee. Most people probably forget, maybe not, that I can't remember, it was the spring or the fall town meeting. One of our selectmen got up and there was an article not to have a Charter Review Committee. And that person got up and said that he didn't think the people were intelligent enough or smart enough, whatever you want to call it, to actually do a charter review.
Selectman Peter Tattlebaum.
Yeah, I'm afraid so, my neighbor. And off and on friend. So, I mean, that's the background there. So when the Charter Review Committee was formed, they put on Bob Fitchmeyer, who I know, he's actually an elected official up at Cape School. Then my wife, and I want to make it very clear, it's not because my wife had the issue, I don't care who it was. What came up was that 2 of the selectmen in particular were not real crazy about having Sandra Slavin be on the Charter Review Committee. Whether they were afraid that she would make life more difficult for selectmen by maybe restricting some of their power by changing the charter or not, I don't know. I just know that all of a sudden when her name came up, Selectman Teitelbaum came up with the statement that no elected official should be on the Charter Review Committee. So he and Selectman Tropiano voted no. Mary and Jim voted yes. And has always been my policy is I don't vote for myself and I don't vote for family members. I abstain. So a 2-2 vote is a no. And then a little bit down the line, I mentioned that Peter Dunlop was also an elected official on the Sewer Commission like my wife. Both Peter and Patrick voted no again because they realized that was an elected official. So they basically set up where if you're an elected official, you can't be in the Charter Review Committee. And the Charter Review Committee and the group that was formed after the Charter Review Committee, they call the group, it's still the same thing. So what happened was Mrs. Whiteside, who was on the Charter Review Committee originally, before she became a select person, came up for appointment, and both Jim Manise and myself, I think we both objected. You know,
based on the precedence that
on the precedent being consistent.
Yes.
And basically, Mrs. Whiteside, I was disappointed, voted for herself, and Mr. Teitelbaum voted, you know. And what happened was I made the motion not to appoint her. Okay, and the vote was 2 yes, myself and Jim, and 2 no for Judy and Peter. So that was basically a no vote. So the chairman, Teitelbaum, brought back the issue the following week, knowing that Selectman Tropiano would be there because he wasn't there that week, and they would know they would have 3 votes that way. And they also changed the motion because you have to understand the rules of reconsideration with Robert's rules and everything. The people, basically the ones who vote no, don't have the ability to reconsider, only the yes. So the bottom line was they changed the motion to appoint her rather than not to appoint.
And did you...
Political games.
Did he offer an explanation to why he ended up backing up and on his own word and his own proposal?
Well, not really. What he said was that, actually no, there was no answer at all on that one, at all. So that was my problem with being inconsistent. So at that time there, I had already, at a previous meeting, basically said I basically am just issuing a notice that I have a vote of no confidence, before for the chair, Mr. Teitelbaum, which I'll explain how that happened, and I also added Mrs. Whiteside after that. And it's really hard for me because myself and Judy have been really close, good friends for quite a while, and this whole issue has really kind of ruined the friendship. And I'm really not just sad about it, I'm upset that it's actually got me to that point. But I just can't get past you know, the whole idea. Again, my ethics and morals just, I don't bend.
And the inconsistency didn't stop there, of course,
No.
with the reassembling of the board after the election of Judith Whiteside and the re-election of Selectman Peter Titlebaum. The order of titles within the board was to recognize Selectman Jim Manise as either the clerk or the chairman.
Possibility. I'll go back a little bit. For my history only, from 2005 until this past month ago, it's been pretty consistent. You have a clerk, but you have the chairman and then the clerk, and then the clerk moves up to chair, and it revolves around by election. Now, you have some spots where someone may either step down or not run again or not get reelected. So it moves things around a little bit. Basically, if you're a selectman for 5 years, you normally will have one chance to be chair and one chance to be clerk. You may end up having two clerks, so, just depending how it goes. But if people go out of the mix, I think when I became a selectman, one of the selectmen dropped out, quit early. That's how Peter took that particular place, actually. In the following year, I think Mrs. Bagley dropped out. That's when Mrs. Whiteside came in. She took that particular position when she won. So it throw things off. But just then Mary basically went ahead and ran for, Mrs. Whiteside's position because she stepped down after a year, to leave to go to Florida for personal reasons. And technically, Mary, who was clerk, if she had run again and assumed she won, she would be chair. Judy basically ran for her position. And because Judy has been a selectman more than one time, she's had this several times, and because of her experience and everything else, it made sense that she probably should be chair because she's filling that spot in there. And that Jim, in his position, because he replaced Tony, should be clerk. And that's kind of how it should have been, following the, again.
And that is a tradition that you have followed for how many years?
Well, 15 years anyways.
15 years, okay.
So the bottom line is it's not a policy. It's not written in stone anywhere. It's just something, it's how it's been done. It's been consistent. So what really got me mad about it, and that's the best way to put it, I was upset because when I run, I've always said that I'm trying to bring trust, accountability, transparency, to the position and to the board, because before I ran, there was a lot of problems as far as the Board of Selectmen, as far as the public was concerned. And I've done my best to keep my word. And what really happened was that 3 of the selectmen, 2 initially, and then the third, basically got together, at some point in time, probably, I can't really say how they did it. All I know is there had to be some interaction, I know that I reached out when we were talking about, the normal setup, and I made a comment. I thought that Judy would be chair and Jim would be clerk, just without saying this is how you have to vote or anything else. And obviously, the end result was that they didn't like Jim. They had some issues with Jim. Jim is very outspoken that he doesn't believe in a strong town administrator. It hasn't caused a real problem for our town administrator because the 2 of them talk and they agree to disagree. They don't fight about it. They don't have hard feelings. Again, Jim believes in what we call a weaker town administrator. If you look at the Wareham Charter, when it was put together in 1977, there was one member of the Charter Committee that had a dissenting opinion, which is included in the charter in the back. That was Mrs. Carmichael, Donna Bronk's mother. And she wrote specifically that she thought they were giving too much power to the town administrator and could lead to issues down the line. Personally, I think a strong town administrator in these days is really required. A weak town administrator is just a recipe for maybe having a 3-year contract and getting bounced and a new person coming in. We have a lot of town administrators that are weak town administrators that just keep coming in and going out everywhere. So Jim and I disagree on this particular point, but we don't have an issue working with each other. The other 3 selectmen just didn't want Jim at all, and so they basically, through I'll call it political maneuvering, got together and decided that Peter would be chair and Judy would be clerk, and that's my problem.
Now, maybe let's try to inform our listeners and our viewers the power that comes with being a chairman, and maybe what this will mean to Jim Menese's position in the board.
It really doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, each one of us had one vote only. So, you know, it's that simple, really. What bothered me most about it was after they went ahead and did this, the comment from Chairman Teitelbaum was that we have one new and one fairly new clerk, you know, administrative assistant in the selectman's office, and therefore we're doing this because we need more experience and more skills, you know, from the chair and the clerk right now, and they basically, as if Jim didn't have the skills.
When Mary Markey won the election to be in the Board of Selectmen, she was promoted, or she filled in as a clerk.
In her second year.
In her second year.
I also, when I ran, the first year, I think Steve Holmes was chair. Kara Winslow would be next up, but Kara lost the election. So I was actually the next senior member, technically, although Mrs. Bagley technically would be in front, but it was my turn. I actually felt that I wasn't ready to do it because I wanted to spend more time doing some other things I was trying to get done. So I basically declined when my name was brought up, and I basically said that if Peter wanted to do it, because he came after me technically, because he had to wait a couple months to get in, that would be fine, and I took the clerk's position. So in the third year, I became chair. So that's out of sequence that way.
So once again, it reverts back to breaking the precedents, inconsistency, and also favoritism.
It's that, but it makes people upset. I mean, I've got emails in both directions as far as when I actually stepped out and gave a vote of no confidence. I've had one person who's a good friend of Mrs. Whiteside's chastise me for doing what I did and thinking that it weakens the board because it doesn't show any harmony, whatever else. But you know, at the end of the day, you know, when you have people that think they know more than everybody else or better than everybody else, that's a recipe for disaster. If you look at a lot of the world wars that we have and everything else, you've got people basically running a country that thinks they know better, and they just tear everything apart. And I just don't like the direction it was going. You know, Jim's again, you know, what bothers me, like, you know, Jim is doing a lot of homework when he comes to the meetings. He's the one that discovered that we have a company in Wareham that's been taking soil out for a long time, never paying for it. He's the one that went through the constable's records because they're supposed to pay us a certain dollar amount, you know, for every time they serve a summons through Wareham. Most of them hadn't been doing it. You know, so I mean, and to say that he wasn't qualified to be clerk, because that's what it amounted to, that was the reason given, was really, excuse my language, bullshit. Simple as that. He's more than qualified to do that. He just, you know, his prior work, he worked at Bridgewater State, then Bridgewater University, and he just has a different outlook on some of the stuff. You know, you don't want 5 people with the exact same ideas all the time because it ends up making mistakes usually, and when they make a mistake, it's a big one. I'd rather have people not agreeing, basically want to get to the same place, but being able to discuss things with each other and work it out.
So when you see that type of behavior in the board, what does it tell you?
It tells me I should probably go home and stay home. I mean, because again, I'm one vote. But normally what I've done for the last 8 years plus that I've been here, when some things come up, I will usually do it not in public. I will say something in private that I'm upset or I think something's wrong. I've had issues with 2 of the members of the board over the years that I've been here, and I've basically been straightforward, you know, but I've done it privately. I don't really like to do it publicly because I think it's more disruptive than anything else. It's almost like a recall campaign. That's the most, I think, destructive thing you can do in a town. It just tears everything apart.
So having a select board with members within it that you yourself as a selectman, you feel no confidence towards them at all in their decision making, what does that do to the town and to decisions that are made here in town? What should people know or extrapolate from this?
Well, I guess what I would say is they need to become more active and be more attentive to what's going on. Because, I mean, as an elected official, as a selectman, you know, there's no recourse for us. You know, you can't fire us. You don't have to re-elect us. but we're pretty much, you can't really do much. So, I mean, and there's no real check and balance. I mean, there are many towns that, and I do mean many, that they have almost fights right in their selectmen's meetings. It gets that, that aggressive and stuff. It's nice to be everybody happy, friendly, and everything else, but again, you have to be able to do the right thing. I think it was Spike Lee's thing, if I remember right. But it's important. I mean, again, your ethics and morals, you're not representing yourself. You're representing the people of the town. You can't represent everybody because everybody has different process thoughts, whatever, what they want to do. You try and represent the majority, but also understand that the minority still has to have some representation. So it's a really difficult thing, and it's made it very difficult for me.
Remind us about the power and the role of the select board in the town and the impact of having members of that board who are playing favors in one way or another.
Well, you have to be very careful because you have you have ethics and appearance of conflict issues, which the Attorney General gets involved with, and you don't really want to make those mistakes. So I'm not saying we're doing things that are criminally wrong, but again, you have to be consistently fair. The worst thing in life is to be okay here, but the next person that comes down the line of business or whatever it is, it's not okay. You can't do, in a business world, as long as, say like we have inspectional services, we have a building inspector. As long as he's consistent in his rulings, it's easy. If he's not consistent in his rulings, then the people who are trying to do business in Wareham may stay away because they have no idea what's going to happen. Same thing with the board. We have to, if we're issuing licenses, if we're making decisions, it can't be based on someone you like or don't like. It's got to be on the actual applicant, what they present, not the individual. A chairman's job for the selectmen is to basically set the agenda and make sure everything runs smoothly. It's not to set a personal agenda, but the agenda for the town. You basically lose, I feel as though anyways, that, and I've done it this way, I don't sit there and put your personalized things you want to do as the agenda. You put what's best for the town there.
Who else shares your belief, your no confidence vote?
I've never asked anybody. I'm sure the other 3 members that aren't happy with me don't. You'd have to ask Jim. I'm not speaking for anybody else.
So let's return back to your involvement with SERPED, with the Massachusetts Municipal Association. What is next? What are some things that you're working on at the moment? What should we be watching out for?
I'm trying to work with Mr. Buckland. They're doing a project. They want to do a Mass Works grant project for the industrial park, for doing sidewalks and stuff. That's coming up, I think, next week's Selectmen's discussion. I'd like to see a Mass Works project for Merchants Way. Not the stuff that the redevelopment authority is doing, but to do what we've been talking about for a long time is to basically do a boardwalk on the back of Merchants Way, access so people to get out into the waterway there. It requires 2 gated accesses through the Mass DOT rail. Ken and I actually went to Boston to talk to Mass DOT rail. They gave us a bunch of things we had to do. They were trying to discourage us from doing anything. They gave us things that normally you just can't get done on your own. I'd love to see a Mass Works grant where we use the grant to get us past those issues and develop the backside so people who own the properties along, basically on Main Street but face Merchants Way have the ability to sit there and turn their buildings around maybe so they have entrances both ways or whatever and make that whole area more attractive and stuff like that. Maybe even take some of the parking area going down the line and convert it so you kind of have, restaurants and businesses that have something on the sidewalk, if you want to call it, but in the parking area that it is now. It just would make it a really nice thing overall. So that's the project. South Coast Trail I've been working on since I've been a selectman. Our representative Gifford's been working very hard on it as well. Right now the Wareham spur, if you want the old Colony Rail spur, it will be from Middleborough with the new station down to Buzzards Bay, is on the docket as being included in the South Coast Rail project. But the rail project is only a phase 1. It's not the final project. Eventually it's supposed to go up through Easton, Stoughton, with electric trains, not, the regular, diesel powered trains. So I'm working on that, constantly pushing on that as well. I'm working on the Route 6 possible redo of changing it from a 4-lane highway to a 3-lane. It has to do with safety issues, etc. as well. And there's just different things like this going on. There's a lot of small projects that keep coming and going. We try to put electric power into the Tremont Nail dam upstream. We've had 3 different companies since I've been around try it, but nobody's able to put it together financially. We have another company coming forward that's going to look at that and see what happens. I've been talking about removing the Parker Mill Dam and actually the Tremont Dam for years, which will affect the cranberry growers, unfortunately, but the state said they would have some kind of mitigation available. So these are just some of the things. And this again, they asked me to see if I could get a traffic light down for Swiss Beach. I was able to get that pulled off the Route 6 study as a separate item, which is on the program. Probably be done in 2 years because nothing happens quickly. Everybody thinks a traffic light is just simple, small dollar amount. It's going to cost probably $1 million to do it, you know, and we don't have the money for it. The bike path that I worked on from, you know, Narrows and Minot Ave is in the queue to come. I think it's 2024. We were trying to get a roundabout at that intersection. I don't know if you remember that Depot Street, Minot Ave intersection is basically you got the street coming this way, street coming that way, street coming this way, street coming that way. Yeah. Well, we have stop signs, you know, in all the directions except for the ones coming down Onset Ave and taking a left into that intersection. So the average person who doesn't know the area, you know, has no idea, because when that car's coming down and taking that left, they have the right of way over everybody else. And I'm amazed there's not more accidents there. So we talked about a roundabout, and I try to put the roundabout in with the actual bike path project. The bike path project is probably less than 2 miles. It's over $5 million to do that, which to me, it's just like this. It baffles me how something could be that expensive in that short a piece of, you know, road. And they said because of the dollar amount, they had to pull the roundabout out of the project. And the other reason was you'd have the roundabout here, but just a couple hundred yards down the road, there's a railroad track with a railroad crossing. And Mass DOT would have problems with a roundabout with a railroad crossing because of traffic backup and everything else. So we're still working on that as an example.
Wow.
And there's more stuff, but I mean, it's constant. You know, I won't live long enough anyway, so it won't matter.
Well, we appreciate, I'm sure everybody else appreciates as well, to learn about some of the work that you do. A lot of it from what you have mentioned, and it's great to see and to hear from you that you're out there vouching for our behalf and bringing these projects into the light. And as you know, the queue is backing up, but yeah, it's all going to get done.
Well, I mean, you know, a selectman's, you know, it's a difficult job, you know, for a lot of different reasons. But if you're working a regular job, it's almost impossible to do the job well. Because if you're working, you know, your regular 40 or 50-hour week, you just can't become a full-time selectman either. I'm probably putting in, I bet you I'm putting somewhere over 40 hours a week, you know, as a retiree type thing. And it's not because I want to sit there and say, oh, thank me, whatever else. It's what it takes to do the job. So anyone who works and does this job, I give them credit because it's, you know, it's hard. So.
Would you like to add anything that I didn't ask?
No, I just ask that people step up and become more involved and stay more informed of what's going on.
Thank you for joining us again for this interview. My guest is Alan Slavin, Wareham Selectman, talking about his work, his involvement, not only in Wareham, but across the region. Also, he did touch upon his recent no-confidence vote in Selectmen Peter Tattlebaum and Judith Whiteside. With that, I wish you all a wonderful day. Bye.
Today's cell phones are not only an extension of our arms, but a life tool. Hello, I am Maureen Farrington from Advantage Custom Apps. I am here today to talk about a certain app, a tool that will help you navigate your way through the Wareham community. The WCTV app places your local community in the palm of your hand. The app is a place where you will find local events, town meetings, local and school sports, community interest stories, compelling interviews, and most of all, the ability to shop local. Connect to the Wareham app by going to your web browser and typing in wctv.com. And then, once you bring up the web link, you have the opportunity of adding WCTV's app to your home screen. Once you download the app and save it to your home screen, you will then have the opportunity to, with the touch of a finger, hit the call button, which we call WCTV, the refer us button. You can refer the app to your friends and families. There's a Facebook share button if you'd like to put that on your Facebook page as well. And here is the menu tab. On the menu tab, we have YouTube videos, new program proposal, events that WCTV is hosting, a photo gallery, contact button, and can lead you right to their website. We also have a Shop Local tab. When you touch on that, you'll see the local businesses that you can frequent. Also, there's an About Us tab telling you some information about WCTV, their hours and directions. This here will take you right to their Facebook page. There is a donate button if you would like to donate to WCTV, and a join button that will let you join their community. Many local establishments are listing their business on the WCTV app. And you can too. It's a great way to showcase your business to your existing customers and your potential new ones. For a nominal fee, you could list your business on the Shop Local tab as well. A percentage of that fee goes to fund a scholarship for an outgoing senior. So be in the now and get the WCTV app on your home screen.
We want to talk to you about medical emergencies.
The kind that would result in a visit to the ED before the coronavirus hit.
The kind that would start with chest pain and sweating.
Or with difficulty speaking and drooping of the face.
Or an accident like a fall or the slip of a kitchen knife.
These are still the kind of emergencies that require a trip to your local emergency department.
Despite this pandemic.
We assure you hospitals are doing everything possible to keep emergency departments clean and safe.
And we are here to provide care to you and your family, but you must not delay.
Because when it comes to your health, time can be the difference
between life and death.
If you experience a medical emergency, call 911 or go to your local emergency department.
Hello and welcome back. Thank you so much for joining us this morning for another Good Morning Wareham program. And if you missed us, this particular show will air this evening at 6 p.m. It will also go on our YouTube channel at Wareham Community Television on YouTube. And for those interviews that we featured this morning, they will also be on our YouTube video collection as well. We'll return back on Friday with plenty more. Still working on what kind of guests or what information we'll be sharing during the coffee segment. So that is something to look forward to for Friday. As of today as well, the weather is going to be as cool as yesterday, so enjoy it. And for the rest of the week, we should face some clouds, rain throughout the week, and lower temperatures. They will rise maybe to the low 80s, but it's going to be a nice, cool summer week in comparison to the other weeks that we have had. So with that, I really want to thank you so much, and I'll see you back again on Friday.